Welcome to The Explainer. You know, for centuries, the secrets of some of the world's greatest ancient civilizations have been locked away, hidden behind this massive green wall. I'm talking about the jungle. But today, we're going to look at a technology that's like a key to that lock. It's peeling back the jungle and showing us a history that is way bigger and way more incredible than we ever thought possible.
Wow, think about that. The tool that Maya archaeologists have been waiting for. That's a huge statement. It tells you that this one piece of tech is literally changing everything. But, to really get why it's such a game changer, we first have to understand the massive problem that archaeologists have been up against for, forever.
All right, Section 1, the jungle's hidden secrets. And really, that's the heart of the challenge, right? Seeing the past. For generations, whenever we tried to picture ancient life in places like the Amazon, our view was spotty at best. It was like we were looking at a giant puzzle with 90% of the pieces missing. And why? Because of this one giant, living, breathing obstacle, the jungle itself. So what secrets are really hiding under all that green? It's kind of ironic, isn't it? The very thing that gave these societies life, the forest, also threw this giant green blanket over their history, hiding just how big and complex they really were. Imagine trying to understand, say, a modern city like London or Tokyo, but you can only walk down one street at a time. You'd never, ever guess the true size of the whole thing.
And that's because the old school way of doing things, literally boots on the ground archaeology, was just so incredibly slow and difficult. I'm talking painstaking work. It could take a team decades, like a whole career, just to map a tiny piece of an ancient city. So the big picture, the roads connecting everything, the massive farms, how people actually lived on a large scale, all of that was pretty much just guesswork.
Okay, so here's where things get really cool. What if you could just snap your fingers and make the entire forest vanish? Just for a second to see what's underneath. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? But that is almost exactly what this incredible technology lets us do.
It's called LiDAR. That stands for light detection and ranging. And probably the best way to think about it is like an MRI, but for the planet. It's this amazing way to see what's on the surface of the Earth without ever touching it, to, peer right through that thick canopy of trees. So, how in the world does this work? Well, imagine a plane flying over the jungle. It's zapping the ground with billions, and I mean billions of tiny laser pulses. Now, a lot of those pulses are just going to hit leaves and branches and bounce right back. But some of them, they find the little gaps. They sneak all the way down to the actual ground and then bounce back up. A sensor on the plane records every single pulse that returns, creating this massive 3D cloud of data points. And then the real magic happens. Super smart software just filters out all the points that hit trees and leaves. And poof, the forest is digitally gone. And you're left with this unbelievably detailed map of the ground, showing every single wall, road, or platform that's been hiding there for centuries.
So we're rewriting ancient history. And I'm not exaggerating. With this new, X-ray vision for the landscape, everything we thought we knew about ancient societies in the Americas has been turned on its head. And it's happened so fast, just in the last few years. The discoveries are, they're absolutely staggering.
Okay, get this, 6,000. That's the number of man-made platforms they found in just one area, in Ecuador's Upano Valley. LiDAR revealed this huge network of cities, all connected by ancient roads. This wasn't just a couple of villages, this was full-on urbanism. And the craziest part? It's 1,000 years older than any other complex Amazonian society we had ever found before. It completely rewrites the timeline.
Or how about this? 160 square kilometers. That's the size of the massive farming system they found around the Maya city of Caracol. All of these agricultural terraces totally invisible from the ground. What this tells us is that the Maya weren't just, surviving in the jungle. No way. They were master engineers, shaping the entire landscape on an epic scale to feed what must have been a huge population.
So what you're seeing here is a total flip in our thinking. The old story was always small, isolated groups living in this vast, untouched jungle. But the new reality, it's completely different. We're talking about huge, connected, low-density cities. We're talking about societies that didn't just live in nature. They actively shaped and managed it everywhere.
All right, next up, beyond the lost city. So when you have discoveries this big, this epic, it's totally natural that people get excited. And that excitement, it leads to some pretty dramatic headlines, as you can imagine. And look, headlines like this one from Nature News. Mind-blowing ancient settlements uncovered. They're not wrong. The findings are mind-blowing. But the story that often gets built around them, this whole narrative about finding a lost city, well, it can actually be kind of a problem.
Which really makes you stop and think, right? We throw that term around a lot, a lost city. But were these places ever really lost? I think the better question is, lost to whom?
Because here's the thing with the Lost City story. It kind of ignores decades of actual on-the-ground research that came before. It often pushes aside the crucial work of local and indigenous scholars. It makes it sound like these places were just sitting there, completely unknown until some outsider discovered them. But that's just not true. That site in the Upano Valley, archaeologists first wrote about it in 1978. And more importantly, it ignores the fact that indigenous peoples have often lived in and around these areas for generations. So lost? Nah. Maybe a better way to say it is not yet mapped by a laser from a plane.
Okay, so this is maybe the most important part of the whole story. Lessons for our future. Because it's not just about finding cool old stuff. It's about what these discoveries can actually teach us, right here, right now. This is the why it matters part.
What these maps are revealing are ancient societies that figured out how to work with nature, not just bulldoze it. I mean, think about modern farming, which is often about clear-cutting huge areas. These people did the opposite. They developed these incredibly smart, sustainable ways to live and thrive inside the rainforest.
They were experts at sustainable land management. Look at this stuff. They built agricultural terraces that followed the curves of the hills to stop soil from washing away. They created massive networks of canals to manage water. They even invented their own kind of super soil, this stuff called terra preta, or dark earth, to make the naturally poor soil of the Amazon rich and fertile. And the proof is in the pudding. They supported huge populations for centuries without destroying their environment.
And here's what's so wild. All of this ancient knowledge could be incredibly valuable for us today. I love this quote from archaeologist Stefan Rothstein, who basically says, look, indigenous people have been at this for 30,000 years. They knew so much more about how to live with the land, and we absolutely have to learn from them. As we're dealing with big problems like climate change and how to feed everyone, these old techniques could show us a path forward.
So really, LiDAR isn't just showing us the past. It's kind of pointing towards a roadmap for a more sustainable future. When you look at these amazing maps, you're not just looking at old ruins. You're looking at a blueprint for resilience and smart thinking that we almost lost. Which leaves us with one last question to chew on. What other ancient wisdom is still out there, waiting to be rediscovered? It makes you wonder. Maybe the real treasures hidden under the jungle aren't cities of gold, but ideas. Powerful, ancient ideas that could actually help us right now.